polynomials, and today's lesson is going to be polynomials and a few pieces of information, a few definitions that you need to know. Number one, in a polynomial is just lots of x's added and subtracted together is what it is. So the first thing, the highest or the largest exponent, we call that the degree. So the highest exponent is the degree. Standard form. What this means is that when you write a polynomial, you have to write them with the exponents going largest to smallest. And the reason that's so important is the next bullet. The next bullet says the number in the very, very front. Well, if your polynomial is not written in the right order, you'll get the wrong answer here. So if it's in standard form, the number in the very, very front, the big number, is called the leading coefficient. And you've got to be able to identify those different numbers. So for naming a polynomial, it gets two names. The first name is based on the degree. And what is a degree? The highest exponent. Okay. So if the degree is 0, so what that really means is that there is no x at all. Because you don't really ever see an exponent of 0. We give it the name constant. If the degree is 1, we say that it is linear. If the degree is 2, we say that is quadratic. We spent a lot of time on quadratics. We spent a whole unit on it. Polynomials is kind of like an umbrella of things. Quadratics is just one of the things under the umbrella. A degree of 3 means that it is cubic. Degree of 4 is quartic. Q-U-A-R-T-I-C. And degree of 5 is quintic. Q-U-I-N-T-I-C. Quintic. So this is all based on the exponents. The largest exponent we look at to figure out which name it gets. The other thing we look at is the number of terms. So when you have lots of things being added or subtracted, each thing is called a term. And so as we get to an example, we'll point this out. But if the number of terms is 1, so if it's only one term, that is a monomial. You've probably heard that word before. If it has 2 terms, that's a binomial. Three terms? What do you think? Trinomial. Now, once we get to 4, actually, it's different than what you would think. Once we get to 4, we actually just become very generic, and we just say polynomial. Instead of giving it a specialized name, we just say that it's a polynomial. I'm just going to put poly with, and then you say how many terms. So a polynomial with so many, I'm just going to put a blank there, terms. So if it has 7 terms, you would put a 7 in the blank. Don't have to memorize these. As long as you don't lose this paper in the next 27 days, you'll have this. Keep up with your packet. So let's go to some examples, and we're going to name them. We're also going to label the leading coefficient. Even though that doesn't affect the name, you still need to know what that is. Okay. So number 1, let's start with the degree. Now, do you actually exponent? No, but is there an x in there? Yeah, there's an x. So if there's an x that does not have an exponent, what do we assume the exponent is? Technically, it's a 1. So now, what's my largest exponent? 1, my only exponent. So my degree is 1. So my degree is 1. So it'll be linear, yep. How many terms? The number of terms. So this negative 3x is kind of one chunk. That's a term. And then we add 1. So that makes it a second term. So we have 2 terms. And then I also want you to label the leading coefficient. What number is in the very front? Negative what?
3.
Negative 3. So my leading coefficient is negative 3. So now for the name. A degree of 1, what's the name? Linear. 2 terms? Binomial. So number 1 is a linear binomial. Number 2. What is the degree? 5. Of all the exponents, the largest one is 5. The number of terms. 1, 2, 3. A plus or minus, think of it as like a space between the terms. So how many terms do I have? 3 terms. What's my leading coefficient? 9. Good. So a degree of 5 means it's what?
It's quintic.
Quintic, yep. If somebody has 5 kids at once, do you know what they're called? Quintuplets.
Wait, actually.
Yeah, it actually is quintuplets.
I was
Now,
joking, but okay.
4 is not, it's actually quadruplets. It makes more sense in my head for quad to be 4, but oh well, it is what it is. Alright, so degree of 5 is quintic. 3 terms is trinomial. Good. Alright, number 3. What's the degree? What? The degree is 0. If there's no x at all, it's a degree of 0, yes, which is a constant. And then the number of terms is 1. Just, there's nothing being added or subtracted, so there's just 1 term. Now, the tricky thing with a leading coefficient, and I would not ask you for a leading coefficient on this one, but technically, since there's no x, technically there's no coefficient, I guess. So we're just going to skip that part on number 3. So degree of 1 is, or degree of 0, sorry, is constant. And then 1 term, monomial. Any questions? Is this hard? Alright, number 4. What is the degree? 3. The largest exponent is 3. The number of terms, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what is the leading coefficient? The number in the very front is 1/2. So a degree of 3 is cubic. And then a 4 terms, I'm just going to say cubic poly with 4 terms. I want you to try numbers 5 and 6 on your own. So here's what you should have on number 5. Degree of 2, 3 terms, -1 is the leading coefficient. So that makes it a quadratic trinomial. Any questions on number 5? Okay. Number 6 has a degree of 4. Only 1 term, because nothing is being added or subtracted to it. And the leading coefficient is -3/2. So it is a quartic monomial. Any questions? So number 7 and 8, you have to come up with your own example, and it gives you the name. So there's so many correct answers. So number 7 for a cubic binomial. X to the third plus 7, sure. As long as you have an x to the third, it could have a number in front of it, that's fine. And then plus or minus something. Now whatever you plus or minus, that if it has a variable, it cannot have an exponent bigger than 3. So I could make this x squared, and that's fine, because still the largest exponent is 3. Number 8, a linear monomial. This is, you have to have an x. It could have a number in front of it if you want, but nothing can be added or subtracted, and you cannot have a bigger exponent.
Don't you have to have a exponent? Can you have an exponent with it?
As long as if it's a 1,
Yeah. I put
Yeah.
x1.
that's fine, but you don't normally see that. Normally it's just x. Any questions?